Can we pull the table back here?
You gonna pull it back?
Quick little station break here. I don't want to mess your microphone up, Rick. All right. Kim, do we have a clicker for?
Good morning. I do not.
Okay. All right, we good. Oh. Let's see. Sorry.
Can you reach it?
Yeah, I'm good.
You need the long cord?
Do you have one?
I do have a long cord. Half a second, let me put the window down over here, okay? Or, hold on. Duh, it's on wheels.
Ah. There we go.
Does that work for you?
Is that too close, y'all? Rick, am I centered? Thank you. I already got you. Yeah. All right, Rick, you ready? Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out today to our Outside the Barn series. This is our third session. Our first session was on March 22nd, where we talked about heirs property. Our second session was last week, April the 5th, where we talked about reconsideration of value. And this is our third session on careers in farming and appraising. Farming and appraising are the two least diverse professions in the country. They're actually one and two, but they are two of the most impactful when it comes to wealth building and accumulation. So the wealth building comes from the land and through real estate. We started this program in June of 2023, and it actually started with the reconsideration of value case that we worked on in Cincinnati, Ohio, with Mr. Terry Horton, who felt that his property was undervalued. And we did the reconsideration of value. Then that case went to the National Community Reinvestment Coalition. And from there, it went to HUD and to the Justice Department. And some of the publicity that we received from that case, we started to get calls across the country. And so as I started to travel the country, I noticed that there was nobody that represented black people in the valuation space. And as I traveled the country, it wasn't just a black issue. It was an undervaluation issue all across the board. So we started off advocating for black people. Now we advocate for the profession and everybody in and of itself. Black people in particular lose $400 billion a year due to undervaluation. That's $200 billion in real estate. Black farmers lose another $100 billion. And then the silent killer of wealth is heirs property. Over 70% of black people do not have wills or estates, and that property is tied up and lost due to fractionalized interest. So as we travel the country and learning and advocating, it has become a mission and a passion. So today we will talk about careers in both Farming and Appraising. And we have some young appraisers here. And I don't know if y'all like old or seasoned appraisers. We have some. we have some more seasoned appraisers, and I'm very proud that the panel of appraisers that we have today, they represent the best in the country in the appraisal space, and they are truly thought leaders. I don't know how many of you all listen to Kendrick Lamar, but he says if you want to get up on game, you got to come to Atlanta. So we're going to put you up on some appraisal game here in Atlanta with a very dynamic panel today. And I hope it's helpful and beneficial. And I'm thankful that you all come out. I probably should have been sitting on the other end. They got me sitting between these two good-looking young men, so it's quite a bit of pressure. But I'm going to start with the young man to my left. I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with him probably for the last, I've been in Atlanta 18 years, so I've probably known Jeffrey for the last 15 years. He's the past president of the Empire Board of Realtors. He's a past national president for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. But more importantly today, he's here as a farmer. And he works with brain fart. I'll let him tell you, but he works with the Farm Cooperative out of Albany with Shirley Sherrod's organization. And they were the first land co-op in the country. The first land trust in the country back in the early 70s. Her and her husband went to Israel to study the kibbutz and communal living, and they had 5,000 acres from early 70s to the late 80s, and due to discrimination from the USDA and FSA, they lost the farm, but they were part of the Pickford settlement several years later, and were able to go back and buy, is it 1,600 acres, Jeffrey? Mm-hmm. And they have a lovely facility down south and are thriving and doing quite well, and it has just been a model for us and the rest of the country. So I've been blessed to be able to work with several economists. Our most recent podcast was with Andrew Mohammed, the ag economist out of the University of Tennessee. But one of our other economists, William Michael Cunningham, he likes to always tell me that the goal should not be to close the wealth gap. We should be working on improving the quality of life. And so that's something that we have adopted, because in order to close the wealth gap, it would take 500 years. But in order to close the poverty gap, it would take $200 billion. That's exactly the amount of equity that is lost due to undervaluation. So I believe that we can solve poverty and improve quality of life by getting back to the farm, by doing cooperative living, by doing cooperative farming. We can do mixed-use rural development, housing, combined with farming, and imagine using your HOA fees to pay for a farm manager, and you can have fresh food farm to table. So these are the kind of things that we want to sort of work on and strive for, empowering us to be able to do better. So with that, I'm going to shut up and allow Jeffrey Hicks to tell you what he does. And he's just an incredible guy and a broker for, I believe, over 30 years now with Apollo Realty. But again, today he's here as a farmer and his capacity as a farmer.
Good morning. And thank you, Thaddeus, for inviting me here. Can you hear me? My name is Jeffrey Hicks. I guess I have two full-time careers now. I'm still an active qualifying broker at Apollo Associates Realty, a firm I've been associated with for 30 years. And I also farm full-time. I work in Albany, Georgia, go back and forth between Atlanta and Albany, where I work at New Communities at Cypress Pond in Albany, which is a farm that was founded by Charles and Shirley Sherrod Both are, well, Charles Sherrod was actually from Richmond, Virginia, but Shirley is from Baker County down in southwest Georgia. And they founded several organizations down there in the early 60s. They were both civil rights pioneers in that area. But I'm going to specifically just jump into what I do. I was retained there as a farm educator. I started working there most recently, or just recently rather, in November of 2024. And I was brought down there to implement regenerative agricultural techniques on the farm. It goes without saying that many people are very concerned about where their food comes from and how it's grown. And in America today, most of the food we eat is designed and created very differently than probably what we understand. It starts with the seed, actually, in terms of how so many seeds are developed in this country today. And so I'm not able to control that part of it, but I can control how we grow it. And so I mentioned regenerative agriculture. And so regenerative agriculture is really taking advantage of everything that's behind you. This is beautiful window as I look at all this beautiful ecological space that we have here in Georgia, which are basically leaves and pine straw and everything that nature gives us, and feeding that back into the soil. And you take these products, these beautiful ecological products that we have in Georgia, and not all states have it, but we are very fortunate to have such a natural environment here that once we take nature, all the twigs, all the pine bark, all the leaves, the pine straw, the pine cones, your grass clippings and everything, shred it up, break it down, and compost it, and feed it back into the soil. That it brings life to the soil. And so we are there to help regenerate this red clay that we have in Georgia, which is nothing wrong with it, because you can grow things in red clay. But when you combine that with composting natural materials, and many of us have heard about composting in the house, where you take your banana peel and your piece of lettuce and a grape and save it, which that's good too. And I do that, but I don't use those products too much because most of them are just a lot of water. And so I prefer to use what nature gives us and help amend that soil and break it down and get it to the point where there's life in it. And so it's a good thing when you see earthworms and slugs and bugs and living things in that soil. And when you put that crop or your plant or your seed in that, that is going to just produce a much healthier plant that's going to have a different type of structure than most of the plants that you get out the grocery store. I eat at Kroger. I shop at Kroger. And so I do buy fruits and vegetables from there. But if anybody has done any backyard gardening even, there's a different structure to the plant when you grow it in your own yard, and especially when you apply regenerative agricultural techniques. And so that I do that across a number of different, what we call demonstration plots in Albany. And so one of the things that we try to do is help teach farmers how to improve the soil, use less pesticides, and also try to work with nature and do companion planting in such a way where you can attract insects that really control other pests for you, because some insects attract other insects that eat them. And so you help reduce your pest pressure by using nature to grow. Now, most of the food we eat is grown conventionally. It's grown in extremely large quantities. So if you have a farm out there with thousands and thousands of acres, is he going to attempt to grow without using pesticides? No. That farmer would lose a lot of their crop if they tried to do that. And so the whole economics of agriculture is based on yield, and you have to control insects from eating your profits, and therefore most conventional farmers heavily spray their crops. So most of the strawberries you eat, even the nuts that you eat that's in a shell, they're heavy use of pesticides is used in agriculture. And so that's big business in America. And so what we're attempting to do is on a smaller scale for those farmers that are not growing thousands and thousands of acres of corn and watermelon and collard greens and things of that nature. There are farmers that grow on a much smaller scale.
Jeffrey, what would you say the average size of small farms are?
In the U.S., you did give a very interesting statistic. In 1920, there was about 1 million black farms in this country. And today, there are only 46,000. And so black farmers represent about 1.4% of all farms in this country. And the average size of those farms, and it's considered large for a black farm, is about 250 acres. The largest farmer in this country, two farms out in Texas, that one family have over 4 million acres of farms. Probably the most familiar name that we know in terms of having a large farm here in Atlanta area is Ted Turner. And Ted Turner has over 2 million acres of farmland. So the farm we work on, or that I'm associated with, is a 1,685 acre farm, which is a large farm. And we don't farm on all of that. Some of that is reserved just for nature. We have about an 80-acre lake out there, and we have an extensive amount of wildlife. And so the USDA, or the U.S. government, they do pay a lot of farmers to preserve land and keep it natural. They pay farmers to burn land, believe it or not. They pay farmers not to grow certain crops on land. And so it is a very interesting career.
You talked about the regenerative. What is, or how long does it take to regenerate the soil? And what are some of the various techniques? Are you bringing in new soil? Are you tearing up the old soil? And what crops are best produced in the regenerative soil? Or is there a transition crop while you're trying to recondition the soil?
Very good question. So it takes, at minimum, about a year to begin to regenerate your soil. I believe in no tilling, so I don't believe in breaking up the ground with a tiller or a plow. I believe in keeping the soil intact and adding layers and layers and layers of new plant material on top of it and allowing it to break down. And then that way your worms and your slugs and everything stay intact. But to answer your question, it takes about a year. And you asked if there a transition crop. all of them are transitioning. You know, everything that's not being grown in that method is being grown in a conventional method. And conventional farming involves plowing the land. And when you till the soil, you're exposing and chopping up all your worms. You're bringing everything that's living up to the sun. When it's exposed to the sun, it's going to kill it. That you're going to have to rotate your crops more often, because every time you till the soil, you're breaking up all the minerals and everything in the soil. And so crop rotation is necessary in this country because farmers till the soil. And the method of conventional agriculture is you till it, you fertilize it. And so when we use the word fertilizer, we might think that that's a positive thing, but you have to put a lot of nitrogen, you have to put a lot of phosphates in that soil when you till it. So when you till it, you got to use a lot of chemicals in order to, quote unquote, regenerate it. And then you plant the crop, and so you're eating soil that's heavily treated with fertilizers, which are bought from China and all across the world. And that's what goes into our soil, and that's what's growing our plants.
Does that negatively impact the environment when done in that method?
It negatively impacts the environment in two ways. One, it negatively impacts everything that's flying around. So that includes bees, all types of beneficial insects that are flying around. That impacts the air we breathe. When pesticide is sprayed, it drifts in the wind. We inhale it. It's known that some of these pesticides cause Parkinson's disease and cancers. And so they have a negative impact on humans, on insects, and on animals. And so even when it comes to animals, animals are, a lot of chemicals are used to raise farm animals, cows, chickens, and pigs. These animals are fed quite a few fertilizers or hormones to make them grow fast. That's just a fact. And so when you eat things that are eating things that are treated with chemicals, our bodies production of the peanut. But Antoine definitely, and you can Google that. If you Google Antoine and pecans in Louisiana, and it's in Wikipedia, you'll see that he's from Louisiana. That's right.
And what is it necessary, what is a requirement for those particular crops, the cotton and the pecans, irrigation? And can you speak to the irrigation on the farms and how that impacts the row crops as opposed to the cotton?
Yeah, very good question. All living things need water. Would you agree with that? All living things need water. During the summer months, a pecan tree, in order to get it to produce pecans, that tree requires one tree requires about 300 gallons of water a day. 2 months in the summer, certain times of year. So irrigation is extremely important in agriculture. And so you may ask, how do you get to where you're drawing that much water? Well, I'll share with you, we have 200 acres of pecans, and we do produce pecans profitably. Fortunately, on our land, we have about 5 wells, in different sections of the farm. So those wells are drawing from aquifers below the earth in order to produce that much water. So when you drive through those rural areas and you see those center pivots, that's what they call them, those long machines that look like irrigation machines, the water that powers those machines, which are powered by pumps, because there's a well down there, you have to have a pump on it that pumps that water at a certain rate to get that machine to move across those fields. Those center pivots cost millions of dollars in order to have that level of irrigation.
And they're extremely important when you start looking at valuation of farms and land, whether or not it's irrigated, if it's water accessible. I've seen people even do development where they may buy something that isn't irrigated and increase the value 40% by adding those items that he just talked about. So there's always opportunities, and unfortunately, the way my mind works, I try to tie everything back to value and what impacts and what it looks like. So those things are the kind of things that you take a look at and pay attention to when you're valuing land and doing rural type valuations in the farming space.
And let's keep in mind, America's different in terms of the resources we have here, the resources that farmers have. 80% of the farmers in the world, throughout the world, don't have irrigation systems. They depend on rain to water their crops. And so the methods that we use, the composting, that does reduce the amount of water that's needed. And although we have irrigation, part of my role is to implement the techniques that I practice that will reduce water usage. Because even wells run dry, okay? And so water, most of the water that's used in the world, really, believe it or not, is used for farm animals. Because cows and farm animals consume a lot of water. And it takes a lot of water to grow crops. And so it's not the water we drink that is most of the consumption, it's growing crops.
Is climate control a concern?
Well,
Global warming?
and so another word for regenerative agriculture is what they call climate smart practices, right?
Can't use that no more.
True. Otherwise, your funding be cut. So, climate smart practices. And so the current administration, now you're making me nervous about the recording. Climate smart practices has been challenged. So yes, to your question, how we grow our food, the amount of fertilizer application that's done, the use of water, the use of spraying pesticides, animals themselves, they do impact the environment, the atmosphere, and probably has a lot to do with the type of climate events that we see taking place in our nation now.
And now what I want to do is I want to open it up for questions for Jeffrey. I don't want to ignore Daniel, but Jeffrey was so gracious with his time, and he had another commitment. So I promised him I would get him in and out so he can make his next appointment. So if anybody has any questions for Jeffrey, Kim? And can you repeat the question,
we're
too?
paid to.
Can you repeat the question so that?
Yeah, the question was, why are farmers paid to burn their land? All of us are familiar with wildfires that take place out west. And what makes those wildfires so dangerous is because, number one, there's a lot of density in the population, right? And so when a fire takes place like that, it impacts human life in that houses catch on fire. Well, lightning strikes have a lot to do with sparking a fire. Or it could be if someone started a fire and an ember just floats somewhere in land and set something on fire. When you burn the land, you're reducing what they call the fuel load that's in nature. So we've been burning our land in Albany for about 4 successive years. So when weeds just keep getting thick and thick and thick, and they die and get thick and thick, and things just keep falling over the years, and a match hits that, then you can create a very large fire. And fire is, nature is something else. The more you burn your land, when it catch fire, it doesn't burn as much. It doesn't burn as fast, right? And so you hear sometimes when you are listening to these events, they start fires to help stop fires. And that's very true. We input what we call fire breaks around the land. You basically take a plow and go around the area. And so that fire, when it gets to the dirt, it stops. And so the more you burn it, the less density you have as it relates to thatch, and the less probability that if a lightning strike, if somebody is careless with a fire and it catches on in an area, in a rural area where there's a lot of damage that could happen, we do what we call control burning. That's what they call it there. We control the burning so that in the event an event happens that's not intentional, it'll reduce the amount of damage a fire will cause.
What are the essential ingredients for composting?
Well, the simplest rule for composting is brown, green, brown, right? And so brown, when you think of brown, you cover the ground with leaves or pine straw first, or a combination of both. Then you add green. Green could be your grass clippings. It could be any type of green vegetation. It could also be vegetable and food scraps that you have. Then you always go brown on top of that, green, brown, green, brown, green. And there are a lot of different, some people buy compost mixers and all that kind of stuff. I just take a space and it could be as big as that little table over there. And I drop some leaves right there and I drop some stuff on top of it and I always cover up the green, always cover up the green. The key to composting is that you don't want to put anything in there that has grease in it. Okay, because grease will attract rodents. You don't put meat in there. Okay, only vegetation. Some people will, let's say, some people I know they'll steam some vegetables or something like that. If you steam some vegetables and you use only water, or if you bake the potato, didn't put any butter on it, and you want to throw it in there, that's probably pretty safe. But nothing with grease. And you'll hear a lot of stuff, can you compost bread and stuff like that? I don't compost bread because bread attracts pests. I don't want to put anything in my compost pile that will attract mice. And trust me, mice and rats are all around your house, whether you see them or not. And so you don't want to do anything to create that type of environment. And so it's okay to use grass clippings. All grass got seed in it. So that's why I said give it about a year for it all to break down, because there is a lot of seed in compost, and sometimes when it breaks down in the compost and you apply it in your garden, sometimes that seed will come up a little bit, but if you give it about a year, it'll break down pretty good.
Clarence?
How far north in Georgia is it feasible to grow pecans? And then the other question is, a lot of the counties now, especially north of Macon, they have put a limit on prescribed burns. And have you run into that? And is there any way to work around that type of issue?
All farming is based on what's called hardiness zones. Okay, so Georgia in general, especially North Georgia, they may be in zone 7B or 7A or something. When you get down to middle Georgia near Fort Valley, it gets into 8 or so. And then if you get further south, it's about 8B before you get to Florida 9. And so if you notice, most apples come out of North Georgia because apples need to get a little cool. It's the cold air that makes that plant bud, right? And most pecans are grown in middle Georgia and below. You don't have many pecans growing in north, not pecan producers, growing in North Georgia. So, you know, Mother Nature is something else. Every state and every region has its own special thing that it grows. Like in Vidalia, for example, the soil in Vidalia it's the composition of that soil that grows that sweet Vidalia onion that grows nowhere else in the state. Although they have modified that onion so you can almost get a sweet onion anywhere else. Cordele, Georgia, watermelon capital of the world. You know, it's the sandy loam soil in Cordele, Georgia, that grows those watermelons the way they grow in Cordele. Now, we grow watermelon in Albany as well, but every state, just like North Carolina, you know, you don't have a lot of tobacco growers in Georgia, but they grow a lot of tobacco in North Carolina and some spaces in South Carolina. Actually, the largest producer of peaches in the country is in South Carolina. You know, they grow more peaches in South Carolina than they do in Georgia, although we're known as, our women are called Georgia peaches, and it's the peach state. Most of it's produced in South Carolina. I think you had one more piece to that question.
The limit on prescribed burns for a lot of counties north of Macon, have you run into that?
I'm not familiar with that area north of Macon in terms of the control burns or how much burning they do there. But I imagine they would do that in that area also if they have a lot of land area. Oh, yeah, it's very healthy for the soil. It's something about that ash that when it burns and it goes back into the soil, that it puts nitrogen back into the soil. I actually burn piles of tree limbs and clean natural products, leaves and that type of thing, let it sit for a while, let the rain hit it, let it, get some ash in there. And I sprinkle around trees. I put a little bit in my garden bed. I don't put too much, but I mix it in my soil, and I find that the plants love it. So burnt wood is, our ancestors been using that for years.
I have some customers that burn their whole lawn and then come back to us.
Oh, yeah. I prefer to burn my lawn too. But, the city of Atlanta is about burning. But that's one of the best weed preventions you can do, is to be able to burn your lawn and burn those weeds. And that's better than using spectricide and weed and feed and stuff like that.
What do you use as an accelerant when you burn in the grass?
A match. Or you can apply an accelerant. You don't want to apply gasoline. Gasoline is too strong. But those gentlemen that come out they're professional. You actually hire professional burners, And so those guys, the county or the city waits a specific day to issue that permit, because they're looking at the weather, and they have to, when we burn on our farm, we have to burn in a way that the wind is not flowing toward the city of Albany that day, because the city of Albany doesn't want the smoke from the farms that are outside the city. So it's a huge science to it, especially in terms of wind flow and the way that wind goes.
Any more questions for Jeffrey before we?
That's a very good question. Cover crops are very important. I primarily use clover as a cover crop. A lot of farmers use that, especially those that have animals, because when you get two benefits: you're covering the land, the soil erosion, and then your animals enjoy eating it for their nutritional value as well. Red is prettiest to me. I like the red. We have tons of red clover. So, but the white clover, some of it's yellow, but the red is the prettiest. But it's all the same though.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
One more question. Yes. Yeah. I was just mentioning, there was a question about irrigation. Yes, sir. And I was saying that 80% of all the farmers in the world don't have irrigation systems. They pray for rain.
Can y'all give Jeffrey a round of applause?
Thank you. I'm gonna stay here a little while because I want to listen to this gentleman here.
So now we have.
I don't have a personal website, but I can give you several websites that you can go to that will refer you to the organization I work with. And so if you just Google new communities at Cypress Pond, I know that's a long word, but new communities, if you Google new communities, Cypress Pond, and put in Albany, Georgia, once you get to that website and start playing around with it, it'll lead you to several other websites that you can go to. And then I would encourage you to Google Shirley Sherrod, or Charles Sherrod, her husband Charles Sherrod. And there's an amazing amount of information on the internet regarding their history and their work, which is extremely significant.
And if you ever get the opportunity to hear Ms. Sherrod speak, she is absolutely amazing. And Reverend Sherrod had a saying that they have on some shirts that they sell that, if I mess it up, Jeffrey, straighten it out. I believe all power is through the land and ultimate power is through God.
That's right.
So, again, it's why this outside the barn, why the agriculture, why the appraising is so significant and important for us to be able to move forward. And I'm very grateful and thankful to have worked with Jeffrey over the last several years, and for us to be, well, he's been in the ag space longer than me, but to be showing up here and then to, I guess we ran into each other at a couple conferences. He's like, what you doing here? What appraising got to do with farming? So I was able to connect the dots for him, and I'm just thankful. And next up is Daniel Rayford. Daniel is with Journey Drones, and Journey Drones is a division of Journey Steel. And Daniel is the next generation or evolution. And so what he does is he ties together the next generation in drones in the application in agriculture and in appraising. There's multiple uses for the drones, for the geospatial measuring. You can pick fruit with drones. You can spray pesticides with drones. You can do inspections with drones. You can herd cattle with drones. Again, Daniel knows all about the drones. I'm just running my mouth, so I'm going to shut up and let Daniel go ahead and do his thing.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. Good morning still. Yeah, like that said, I run Journey Drones. We are the branch of a 15-year-old construction company. We're based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. We currently in Ohio are dumping a lot of resources and time into regulating airspace for drones. So we are, well, I'm probably the youngest person in the room, so I do get the reference. We're literally turning into the Jetsons. As our owner, which is my mother, she happens to be my mother, she likes to say she's the Flintstones and I am the next generation, which would be the Jetsons. So yeah, my goal is to bridge the gap between our normal processes into the future, which helps us become a lot more efficient and safer. We utilize a lot of unmanned systems to do that, specifically drones as well as a few robots when that case comes. Like I said, we've been in business 15 years. We strongly stand on the principle of build as you climb, which is why I'd like to thank Thad for having me out here. I love to partner with Thad. He believes in pretty much all the same things that we do. When I say build as you climb, we believe it's not only an opportunity, but a responsibility to reach back and pull up our people as we continue to make opportunities for ourselves. We love to provide those same opportunities for the next generation or those who don't have the same opportunities. So we love to partner with 10KMA or 10K Appraisers because, like I said, we firmly believe in building as we climb. We can't do it alone, and it's not fun doing it alone. So we love creating the opportunities as we grow. I'm a visual guy, so I don't like to do a lot of talking. So, like I said, at Journey Drones, we utilize, I don't know if you guys are hot or not, but it's a pretty nice little breeze for you. But yeah, at Journey Drones, we utilize a lot of different unmanned systems. This right here is an example of a multi-rotor drone. We utilize these Mavics for pretty much multi-purposes. A lot of the drones that we utilize have specific use cases and specific things that they specialize in. So as you can tell, this is not a drone that would be spraying pesticides. This is more of our inspection. This is more of our first case that we would go to when we show up to a job and decide what needs to be done. This is typically what we'd use in our on the construction side. We do a lot of inspections of pretty much anything a drone can fly over or through. We like to take a look at it. Those type of multi-rotor drones gives us the ability to go into smaller spaces. I'm not sure how familiar you are with drones, but they do vary in size. That's a pretty versatile one that allows us to pretty much at least get a baseline of what we will need to attack a certain mission. We do also utilize various other drones, which could be hybrids. Those allow us to cover large ranges of areas. So, for example, a 1,600-acre farm would need a long-range drone to scan that type of field. Obviously, the spraying drones apply to farming. Those are very specific use cases, like I said. A lot of you who own farms or deal in the farming space probably are already familiar with that. And then not only is the one I just demonstrated a multi-rotor, that's a mapping and imaging drone. The mapping and imaging is probably the most widely requested service from the drone industry. The data you collect from these drones allow you to pretty much do anything and assess anything that you may possibly be looking for out of an inspection or survey. Well, you don't need me up here to tell you that AI is everywhere. We utilize AI already, and AI's limit is, actually AI pretty much doesn't have a limit. We currently use AI to post-process all the data that we collect. We use AI in some of the drones that we use. Some of the drones don't need me to fly them at all. AI can be programmed into some of these drones, and they can take off, perform a mission, come back, and give us all the details themselves. And then the future of AI is pretty much limitless. Not only will AI be able to perform those same tasks on drones, we will be dealing with swarms of drones soon, which sounds scary, but it's come. That's the future, and these are tools that we have to try to utilize as we continue to grow in this field. Some of the things that we do with our drones, like I said, we like to call ourselves an all-in-one aerial solution. There is not a job that we will shy away from. We are tackling the delivery space. We help on, like I said, the farm and agriculture space. We help track wildlife. We have the potential to herd wildlife with drones. And then we have the ability to do crop analysis, plant analysis. We can help track flooding or your irrigation process. We have the ability to check soil health. I mean, the possibilities are pretty much endless. If there's something that you're looking for, our drones can pretty much provide that service.
One of the services that I like to talk about that I'm pretty sure he's not going to mention, but one of our other partners is Red Bib, and Red Bib is Amazon, Uber Eats for farmers, delivering fresh farm to table, and they are working on a collaboration to be able to deliver and source those fresh foods farm to table with the drones as well. So we did a presentation in North Carolina a couple weeks ago to the North Carolina black farmers, and these are all resources to modernize the farming process in order to update, as well as utilizing those information that we want to also modernize the appraisal process through data science and data-driven analysis, evidence-based data-driven analysis. So the other part of that for us is utilizing the drones to be able to do the inspection to make it more comprehensive. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, yeah, you said it perfectly. Yeah, like I said, we are trying to break into the delivery space. That's another way that we feel like we're helping to impact the world. Because like Jeffrey said, the foods that we buy at the grocery store aren't necessarily the best for us. So us being able to deliver from farm to table or farm to home is huge for us. So not only do we want to provide a more efficient solution, we pride ourselves, well, we have a passion to help impact the world in any way that we can. But yeah, so another aspect that we also provide is the marketing space. like I said, we will tackle anything that a drone can fly over or do, whether it's just taking photos or videos, or we actually help you to get the insights that you're looking for. And then obviously, like I said, we are a construction company, so that's where our basis started. We are very knowledgeable in the construction space. I love coming to these events and coming down south in general, or traveling with Thad, because like I said, we do like to be knowledgeable about what we're doing. And I learned so much about farming and agriculture when I travel to these events that we are very confident in the solutions that we provide in that space as well. So just a brief overview, because this isn't a construction talk. This is just an overview of kind of how we go about our processes. We have curated, or we do curate our own strategic flight plans for when we do come out to fields, to real estate, to property, to do an inspection or evaluation or anything. We strategically plan our flights so that we can actually provide the data that you're looking for. We take that data and we use a 3D environment where we are able to stitch that data together. So whether this is a field or a structure, we actually allow, we create the opportunity to be able to visualize whatever it is that we inspected or surveyed in the palm of your hands on your computer, so that you can have a more in-depth or visual or analysis of what it is that you're looking for. And then we use that data that's where our AI comes into place. We use that data to customize a report. Excuse me. We use that data to customize a report to whatever it is, whatever specifications that you're looking for. So we don't like to say that we specialize in one thing. We have the ability to give you the insights for whatever it is that you may be having a trouble with, that you may need solutions from us for. So basically, drones are a more efficient way. Drones are inevitable. They are being widely used. They will be used more in the future to take on whatever processes that we can get manual. Whatever manual processes we have now that can be replaced with drones, we are heading in that direction. So our goal is to this is where the 10K comes in. Our goal is to help build the tools, help give you the tools necessary to learn everything you need to about drones, whether you actually want to be a drone pilot or you may have one that you want to learn how to fly, or you have your own use case that you may see that's not available out there that you'd like to pursue. We do teach how to become licensed. So that you are knowledgeable, because the fines for putting a drone in the air somewhere that you're not supposed to are very hefty. We give you the tools necessary to pass the Part 107, which gives you the ability to file authorization and know what the do's and don'ts of flying drones.
And the drones are actually a career in and of themselves, so we use it as a basis to get the students interested in careers in farming and in appraising, but also most of the kids are using gaming, so we have the ability to teach it the basics in the gamification on our learning management system platform to be able to get them started. And we start with the very, very first class is drone safety, because these drones are extremely expensive. So before you get to crash a drone, you have to take drone safety and learn the ins and outs and commit to not tearing up the drone, and we also have them insured just for that reason.
Correct. And from there, we have created Journey Drones Academy, which not only starts with the safety and the knowledge, but it also teaches you how to fly the drones, how to become a confident operator, and then we also give you the tools to do, like I said, we want to build as we climb, so we give you all the tools necessary to create your own career path in the drone industry, so we can continue to further the field. If there are applications that the kids may have, some of you may have, that you don't see being used right now that you would like to pursue, we want to give you those tools. And that's what our Drone Academy is built on. If you scan our QR code, you can find our website, our social medias. I believe my contact information is on there. If it's not, it's on the screen. I'm also here all day, so feel free to approach me with I can give you my personal contact. If you want to reach out to me directly, we can talk more about drones, but I will open it up for questions that you may have. Yes. Right now, so we are at the very early stages of our academy. So right now, yeah, our course costs is based on just our current virtual self-paced courses that we offer, which are ranged from $100 to $200 currently. We are continuing to expand so that we can offer more hands-on or virtual kind of hybrid courses. Those will probably range anywhere to the $400 to $800 per person range for those who prefer the old school style of being more hands-on in the classroom session.
Can y'all give Jeffrey one more round of applause for you?
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thad.
Thank you.
All right.
Any more questions for Daniel? So what we're going to do right now is take a brief break. We have refreshments provided by Chef Tiffany and our sponsor, Cascade Fence Company. So in our next panel, we're going to have a group of young appraisers that are early in their career. We got Janae and Mr. White. We have Bridget and Quashan. So they'll be up here in our next panel. And so feel free to grab some refreshments. We got coffee, soda, water. I thought we had water.
Yeah, they're
Oh, okay.
They're hitting over there.
I don't know what Chef Tiffany made today for us, but last week we had lobster rolls and some good sandwiches. So feel free to take a break and enjoy yourself, and we'll be back. Hopefully y'all gonna stay awake. I know you are enjoying those, that good food from Chef Tiffany and Lola Pecan Restaurant. Thanks again to Chef Tiffany for sponsoring this, and her mother with Cascade Fence Company. We're very, very grateful. And she's got to-go boxes today. Nobody get a to-go box before I get mine together, because I didn't get a chance to eat on the break. And so I'm especially talking to you, my man, Yosha. You know, I had to charge you, bro. But again, thank you all for coming. We really, really grateful. Right now, we have, trying to move on with the program, we got the young guns up here. These are our young real estate appraisal professionals that I have had the opportunity to work with, and I couldn't be more proud of them. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go from my right to left and introduce them, and then I'll let them come back and tell you a little bit of their story. And so on the end, we have Miss Bridget Joy McAlmond. She's an appraiser at Clayton County in the tax assessor's office. And next to me, this is my right hand. This is my ride or die. This is Bridget. We fight. We do everything. And I can't tell you how much I am grateful and I appreciate her. And she puts up with me. Her family puts up with me. They tolerate me. When she was ready to quit, her husband wouldn't let her quit, told her she had to put her big girl panties on and man up. And I'm very thankful for him. And I can't speak highly enough of her and her kids. When I call, they all let Uncle Thad borrow their mom for a little while. So when I'm on the road and traveling, she keeps everything together, and I'm thankful for her. And to my left, this is one of the best young commercial appraisers that I know that doesn't like appraising. So we're trying to get her to come back. She's an excellent writer, but she's currently working with CB Richard Ellison. She underwrites commercial stacks for hotels, and she is absolutely amazing. And she worked at the post office full-time, was at Georgia State, got a degree in real estate, got a master's degree. Didn't want to give up the post office, you know, the family. That's a good job, girl. You don't want to let that good job go. And she was like, well, I want a better job. So I'm very, very thankful and grateful for her and to have been a small part of her journey. And to her left, we have Mr. Andre White. He's somebody I had the pleasure of meeting probably over the last 6 months. He just reached out to me. I don't know how much help I've been to him, but he since has secured an appraisal position with Quest and is doing quite well. And then next to him is a young man who I really couldn't be more proud of. He went to Clark Atlanta University, and I had the opportunity to assist Professor Oscar Sistrunk in a real estate club at Morehouse in the AUC Center, and that's been several years ago now. And we reconnected recently, and he's doing a lot of amazing things in the appraisal space with technology, and he has his own company. And I've come to find out recently he's got a family, he got married, and he's got 2 kids now. And so I couldn't be more proud of Mr. Quashawn Kennedy. So we're going to start from my left to right, and I'll let Quashawn introduce himself and tell you all what he's doing.
I'm better known as Q. Since I got down to Atlanta, nobody could remember my first name. So if you want to refer to me, please refer to me as Q or Sean. I'm from New Jersey. I've been down here since 2008. Like Thad said, towards the latter years of my college career, I was put with Thad, and he had a program going on helping young black men get into the appraisal field, and I took advantage of it. And I didn't stick with it. I got my appraisal license, but I didn't stick with the career all the way because I'm more of an entrepreneur at heart. So I tried different things in my 20s, which led me to today where I'm currently managing a title search business. I utilize AI and I utilize virtual assistants to help make processes efficient and streamline them up. I wish I can go through a presentation because it's easier to demonstrate than to elaborate, but I use AI for almost everything. I'm a chat GPTer to the fullest, and I try out little things like Gemini and Copilot and stuff like that, but my life is really booked in chat GPT to the point where I talk to it about almost everything. Health stuff that I got going on, it'll read my doctor's records and let me know what better ways I can eat and build a grocery list. I'm writing a book with ChatGPT, or basically, let me just say I'm composing a book with ChatGPT. And for my entrepreneurial side, I utilize it to read deeds, contracts, liens, any type of encumbrance that I'm not familiar with. It'll help tune that learning curve exponentially. And ever since I've been using ChatGPT, I've been doing the work of a solopreneur, but it feels like I got 10 people on my team. So I'm a true advocate of AI and using it in everything. Any type of advice you ever needed about something, you don't have to call Thad anymore. You can just go straight to ChatGPT about your appraisal question. Sorry, Thad.
Do you have a number where they could reach out to you for your services?
Yeah, sure. You can 404-585-1597. That's my direct cell phone line. You can call or text anytime. If you have a business and want to utilize AI and implement it into your current operations, I can definitely help consult in that area. And I'm just willing to help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. White.
Yes, sir. I don't talk much, but when I do talk, I can get a little long-winded, and I know
We ain't got a long time. We need to make this count.
Understood. Thaddeus was a little discriminatory against long-winded people, even though I would argue that he is one himself. But anyway, I'm from North Carolina. I got a construction and landscaping background. Pretty much kind of just grew up doing landscaping and construction, and so Greensboro, North Carolina, that's where I grew up. So when I was like in high school, I was riding around with lawnmower hanging out the back of a 94 Honda, just kind of like knocking on people's doors and trying to get service and kind of build a business. And believe it or not, I still kind of do that to this day. And so I was a first generation college student. I actually was at Morehouse, started off at Morehouse. And so I went there my freshman year, and then when I came back my sophomore year, I was walking around campus with pretty much nowhere to go. I had all my stuff, but being a first-generation college student, I wasn't able to afford tuition and housing. And so I actually moved off campus, and that was like my blessing into real estate. And so I met a lady named Miss Hill, and she had like 20 properties like all around the campus. And so I pretty much like kind of stayed there until like the middle of my sophomore year. And so that's when I kind of like made a business decision to kind of transfer to Georgia State. They was offering me some money, so I kind of went there. And then, from there, I graduated.
Get to the appraising part.
Got it. Yeah, I graduated in 2014. Immediately went to grad school. I didn't like it. It was kind of, a lot, and so wasn't happy. And then I ended up going, meeting a general contractor. And so he offered me a position to kind of open up my own construction company back home where I was from Greensboro, North Carolina. And so then COVID hit. I did like $500K in my first year in contracts. and I was still broke. And so that was like my welcome into the business world. And from there, COVID hit, and we kind of had to shut down operations and everything. I came back here in 2021 with nothing but a truck and a dream, and so I ended up going and meeting a guy who had an Airbnb, because I came down here with just, just trying to get everything situated. And so I did a couple of things for him. We did some landscaping jobs together. And then from there, he was like, what else can you do? And so we actually did some construction jobs together. And then, we became really, really good friends. And I found out that he wasn't actually the property manager, which was what he introduced himself as. He actually owned all these properties that we was working on. And so that kind of like threw me into like the whole project management, real estate world. And so from there, I started going to I started going to networks. I did the whole YouTube University and everything like that. And from there, I met somebody else who was actually in real estate. And so they kind of just like introduced me
Get to the appraising.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so they kind of like just like kind of led me down the path and introduced me into everything as far as like wholesaling and stuff like that. And so this is where the appraising part this is where the appraising parts come in. I was actually working at I was working on a property out in Hampton, Georgia. And I actually was just doing my thing. After I finished the yard, I went and started knocking on doors, just passing out my card and things like that. And I actually met a couple who were looking to sell their property. And so they had over like 5 acres on a house, which was kind of like I guess what you would say, a complex assignment. And so I had everything. I set it up. I had an investor that, loved the whole property and everything. And he said, all you got to do is get an appraisal. And I was like, a what? A who? I had no idea what it was, and so from there, I was calling around just like local appraisers in Hampton, Georgia. And I ended up on the phone with some big company who had a real estate agent who actually got on the phone. And next thing I knew, the couple was listed with the real estate agent. So that was like my welcome into the world. But from there, I could just kind of like researched on appraisal, and I loved everything about it. And so I got into a couple of groups, started networking. I met Janae through a Facebook group. She told me about Quest Advisors, which is where I recently just started my apprenticeship. I actually did have an interview with Quest before I started all the classes, and I just wasn't ready. And so came back a couple of years later, passed all my courses, had all the classes done, and so Quest has given me a chance, and that's kind of how I got into appraising. Long-winded story to get there.
Man, we got there, though. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So how did me and you get connected?
So I actually reached out to Thaddeus on Facebook. I think it was LinkedIn. Might have been. Yeah, I think it was LinkedIn. I reached out to him.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, along with the hundreds of other appraisers I reached out to. But he did always, he got back to me when he could. And so I really appreciate that. And I've been following Thaddeus for a long time. And everything he doing and stand for, it gives people from where I'm from hope. And so I love everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Miss Janae?
Hi, everybody. I'm Janae. I knew I wanted to be in real estate ever since I was in high school.
Is that last year?
No, it was around 2009. And I went to my counselor, and she said, you need to pick something else because the market isn't doing good right now. And I was like, okay, what about interior designing? And she was like, nobody's going to want to fix their house if they don't have any money. So I chose pharmacy. I went to Georgia Perimeter and took those pharmacy classes. It was chemistry, 3-hour labs, which is worth 1 credit. I was like, and then I had to take 5 of them. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I was like, give me the closest degree out of here, which is business. At the time, I was still working at the post office. I've been there 8 years, 8 long years. And I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which like changed my entire mindset on, you know, business and real estate. And what I learned from that book is that in order to be where I want to be, I got to get advice from somebody I would like to trade places with, and not somebody that's going to speak to me with a fear-based mindset. So I went back to school and got my degree in real estate, and it was a breeze. I excelled in it. And after I got my degree, I was hired at Quest. I had to network because I was like looking everywhere, looking online. It was just telling you how hard it was to find somebody like a mentor. And I was just like, okay, I just got to network. I went to several networking events. I met this guy named Bruce Kellogg. He introduced me to Marlon Day and Matt Jackson, and like I had an interview with them, and they took me on. So I was working overnight at the post office and appraising during the day. Then I wanted to go back to school to get my master's degree in Master's of Science in Commercial Real Estate. And I quit the post office. I let it go against the wish of my
How hard
grandparents.
was that? We had lots of conversations about that.
It was hard because I was listening to my grandparents. They retired from the post office, and it did them really well. So they was like, no, don't quit, stay there. I was like, no, I hate it. So
I think she struggled with that for at least, 2 years.
Yeah, 'cause-
we talked about it back and forth. And it was, I was really proud of her, but she was working too many hours, and she was doing really good work, but she was still holding down that full-time job at the post office. But she really wanted the appraising, and so it was just a really, really rough decision. And then she made the decision, and most people don't have that kind of courage to follow their dreams. They take the safe route, and she just kind of just jumped out there and did it. So I was just really impressed by her. And then she figured out she didn't like appraising.
I actually changed my mind. I want to go back to appraising. I like the autonomy.
Yeah, but she was working on her master's degree, and not to cut you off, but she's just so amazing. And then when she started underwriting hotel stacks for CB, it was utilizing all of those skills that she had learned and putting them all into play. So now I think we might be able to get her back as an appraiser, but she's got a multitude of experiences and a hell of a lot of courage, and I just like to always applaud and champion her.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, no, that's
Okay.
it.
All right, so then we're going to come over here to Bridget. Bridget is, she was an HR professional in her past life, and she wanted to be an appraiser. And she was networking with somebody else who reached out to me, and I'll let Bridget tell the story.
Yeah, so I'm Bridget, everybody. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm from Atlanta. I had about 5 years as a firefighter. Then I did 10 years plus in HR, in civilian and military. And I don't know, I just wanted something different, especially as you grow and your priorities change. You want something different, and so I needed something that kind of aligned with what I wanted, in my adulthood. And of course, that aligned with what I needed for my family. And so it took me about 3 years. I researched different careers, and I ran into appraising. I had my house appraised a couple of times, and I asked, the guys about their jobs. Most of them were men, but all of them loved it. Nobody had any complaints about it, and so I just started doing my research there. And then around COVID, I decided, okay, it's time for me to just kind of step out. So before I quit my job, I went ahead and got my qualifying education. I started networking because I instantly saw that there were barriers to entry, which is finding a supervisor. Mainly, that's the hardest part, and it's a steep learning curve. But I knew that would be a challenge. I knew that's something I had to just kind of, get through. But in that process, before quitting my job, I started looking for a supervisor. Again, I finished my education. It took me about a year total before I found Thaddeus. And once I found him, I quit my job. It was a hard decision, because I spent, like I said, 10 years plus in human resources, and it was lucrative. But I didn't desire it anymore. And so, I found Thaddeus, and I'm here now working in it. And it's challenging, but it's also rewarding. You have to be humble, you have to be persistent, you have to be committed. And as long as you do those things, I think that there's no way but to go up. And so I'm in it, I'm working, I'm grinding, and, I know it's gonna pay off in the next few years. And that's my story.
Well, thank you, Bridget. And next to Bridget, we got Bridget. We got two Bridget, Bridget and Bridget Joy.
So hello everyone, my name is Bridget Joy. My story is, I guess, way different, so that's why I'm on the right. But I hail from Brooklyn, New York. My family and I moved down here a few years ago. And I left a relatively good job, because to me, good is relative to whom you're speaking with. So I left a relatively good job in New York City as a training coordinator for New York City Transit. I did that for almost 10 years. It was very rewarding, but I got burnt out because training people and like managing people and supervising people is very stressful. So I decided to move. We moved down here. I didn't really know where I was gonna go with that. I started in optical, actually, being an optician for a little while. And then I had purchased when we came down here. And one of the first things I got was a tax bill. So the tax bill had me a little distraught because it wasn't what I thought that it would be. So I went down to my county and I'm all Brooklyn and I was like, bring it down. So I went to the office and I'm talking to them about it and they said, well, a bill is a bill, ma'am. A bill is a bill. And I was like, okay. So they said, well, if you had started from your annual notice of assessment, which is concerning your appraisal, then you can start from there and it would help with your bill. I didn't know what that was. I'm a first-time homeowner. And so I just kind of was like, I'm gonna figure this out and I'm gonna get a job with the county, seeing what I could do. And hey, so said, so done. I applied with the local tax assessor. I applied for about 3 different counties and I ended up in Clayton. Most of the people, even my director that hired me, he said most of the people in the department come from other industries, not necessarily from the appraisal standpoint. And so he's like, if you're a people person and you know how to, just move, you'll be fine. It's a big learning process. And so far, I mean, it's brand new industry to me. I'm still working my way up to getting my level 3. Because I was hired in a level 3 position, so they give you 2 years for each one, and the county trains you. You go take your classes to do county appraisal, which has also led me to my passion project, which is called Not Just Drinks, where I'm pretty much a community advocate. I've always been a community advocate, even in New York City. And so meeting people here and working in the capacity of the tax assessor's office, people really don't understand how their appraisal works, how the tax process works, how their mortgage works, and I'm just like astonished by that. So that led me to, like I said, Not Just Drinks, which we kind of just meet people where they are in the community. And it's not just drinks for me, because I'm a woman of a certain age, even though I don't look like it. And I'm trying to do more by uplifting my community. And so my space is real estate space. And it just so happens to be in appraisal. So.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody here on this super dynamic young appraisers in the profession panel. Does anybody have any questions before we?
I work in healthcare, and a lot of what my work is about keeping patients safe and preventing medical errors. And some of it means like exploring our building and facilities, like checking for things that might harm patients nerd knowledge that I know is like, there's 13 generators in my hospital. I want to be able to like do appraisals for like healthcare spaces and clinics and things like that. So what route would that look like?
That's going to be a question for the next panel.
Okay.
Does anybody have any more questions? I'm going to let them go, and we're going to try to be respectful of time. We're going to go beyond the time because this next panel is extremely dynamic, so we usually supposed to stop at 1. Rick, is it okay if we keep on going at 1? It ain't no rules to this, and I would be remiss to let you all get away from here without hearing this next panel. So we're going to change right now, take a break, and I guess we'll come back at 1 o'clock, 5 minutes to 1. Folks need time to get some more refreshments from Chef Tiffany and Trey. And then the panel that we have coming up is extremely dynamic and very well versed and can appraise any property type that you could possibly think of. So.
Got some notes there.
Just, I'm an old man. I can't remember no more.
Rick, you ready?
Kind of cold.
Actually, this is stuff from the front, the first part,
Oh, gotcha.
which I need for something that we're doing. The farm.
Welcome, everybody. We're back from break. I'm very excited. This group of appraisal experts I have here would be considered an appraisal dream team. They can appraise any property type that you can think of in the state of Georgia or anywhere else. I'm blessed to know them and be able to work with them to help train the next generation of appraisers that will be coming through. It's the brain power at this table, minus myself, is extremely powerful. To my right, we have the triple OG, Mr. Oscar Sistrunk. He's the first black MAI in Georgia, long-term professor at Morehouse College. I can't believe I'm sitting between two Morehouse guys. To my left is Clarence Williams. He's a brilliant real estate practitioner, MAI, CCIM, one of the greatest minds in commercial real estate and appraising, and can appraise the largest and most complex property types known to mankind. And to his left, bringing black girl magic and girl power, is Miss Syra Paul. She's an MAI, CCIM. She does right away. She can appraise any property types and extremely brilliant. And to her left is Mr. Andy Shepard. He's a very, very talented, brilliant appraiser. All these folks are extreme thought leaders in the appraisal profession and have the ability to appraise and do any property type. They're excellent writers and communicators, and whenever I need a resource or a question, this is the brain trust that I depend on and have been very thankful to come across in my career. And as I travel the country, I would put this panel here against anybody, anywhere, anytime. So with that being said, I'm going to start with Oscar to my right. And Oscar's from New Jersey and came to Morehouse. I've been knowing Oscar probably, I think, since 2009. We had the opportunity to meet when I was we both doing some work for Capital City Bank. He's just been tremendous to me. When I started travel a couple years ago, he took over my entrepreneurial class at Best Academy, and he continues to do that work today. And the kids really love him. And you all that were here last week got to see Gordia Ammons and his son Miles, who's an appraiser. They're from Oscar's lineage and tree of appraisers. So he has, I can't tell you how many students that he's taught at Morehouse over the years and how many people he has deployed in the appraisal and real estate industry today. He's supposedly retired, and he does a lot of teaching at the Indian reservation, but he's back at Morehouse. I think he's doing more work now, retired, than he did when he was working. He's also at the forefront of blockchain technology and NFTs and tokenization. He's recently done some work in doing real estate development, utilizing fractional interest with Bitcoin to be able to do that. And these are some of the things that he's teaching and empowering the students with. So with that, Mr. Oscar Sistrunk.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let's see, let me start real quick. Yes, I am from New Jersey, and back when I came, matter of fact, my freshman year is 50 years ago. I can't believe it. So I came to Atlanta 50 years ago from New Jersey to go to Morehouse. And to be honest, it wasn't Morehouse. I tell people I really came for the 2 W's when I came to visit. the weather and the women. Once I saw Spelman, I told my dad, man, sign me up. I don't need nothing else to know about it. But I came here as a freshman and decided I'm not going anywhere. And before I forget, yes, also one of my former students is Mr. Kennedy, who was at Clark, and I taught him also, and he worked for me for a few years out of school before he's moved on. And, you know, one of the things about teaching, and when, you know, I started teaching at Morehouse way back in 1980, so I've been there a long time. And one of the things that that got me over there is my mentor told me the benefits that you get from teaching at a place like Morehouse and Clark is not the check that you get every month, but it's the students, the raw material that you have, that you get to mold, you send them out into the world, and they come back, and you're like, holy cow, this thing did work. And Mr. Kennedy, as a matter of fact, speaks over at Morehouse for us, and he's into this AI stuff that I introduced him to, and he's taken off with it to a whole nother level. So we always have him come back. And, you know, he real. That's what I get paid for. Also, you talk about retiring. If you find your passion and you love what you're doing, you're not working. So there's no need to retire, right? I wake up every day, can't wait to go see the students, can't wait to get involved in what's the latest technology, whether it's crypto, blockchain, real estate. And yes, I am an MAI. I do commercial appraisal work throughout the United States and the Caribbean. And one reason I do that is because I'm a Star Trek guy. So I remember Captain Kirk said one time that there's always a solution, always a solution. So when I got into the appraisal field and got my MAI, I still found it difficult. But one of the options is that I had some attorneys come to me because I was doing right-of-way work, and they mentioned to me that they needed an MAI to go to court to fight the banks, and that most of the MAIs already worked for the banks, so they couldn't use them. So they used me to fight the banks, which is, you know, I'm pretty good with the jury. So we started doing a lot of winning, and eventually the banks came to me and asked me to get on their list, and I said, nah, no thanks, I'm good. And so I really don't do a lot of work for banks on purpose now. One reason, because they turn me down early, and I don't care how long it takes, I get even. It just takes time. And I'll wait. So I do the same thing with Native Americans. Work with a tribe called the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation up in Connecticut. They have a casino called Foxwoods, which is the largest Native American casino and the first Native American casino in the United States. And we just took some students up there, and we need to understand we have a very strong relationship historically with Native Americans. If you ever get a chance to go up there and go through their museum, which is top notch, you'll understand that relationship, and we're trying to foster that. So I'd help. In the 80s, we started the real estate program at Morehouse, and then I came back in 22 to help re-energize it. After I retired the first time in 2015, and then I came back. So I'm back there again. I told them, I don't know when I'm gonna go, man. I like the students, they keep me current, because now I'm into ChatGPT, because I gotta figure out how they cheat. The only way I can figure out how they cheat, right, is I gotta know it better than they do. And then I tell them, I'm in the cut. You don't know what my name is. So when you're out there, you don't know who I am, who I'm following. You don't know anything. But just know I'm out there watching whatever you do. But anyway, getting into the appraisal business, what I like to do is help young people, all right, not only learn about the business, but expand, especially the commercial, because it's changing so much, right? As we move towards digitization, all the physical stuff is dematerializing, from office space to retail, banks. I mean, what are you gonna do with a bank nowadays? Only people in banks are old boomers like me, try to pull out a check and figure out what is, holy cow, what is that? And you see everything going away. Well, what is happening on the digital side, right? Which is where everything is headed, and even as a commercial appraiser. So I'm using more and more AI, thanks to Mr. Kennedy, in my reports. And in my class, talking to students, matter of fact, we talked about drones and AI in class yesterday.
He was the first person to introduce me to blockchain technology several years ago, after he made $1 gazillion and left me behind, I was really upset.
No, it's still early. It's still early. I started talking about Bitcoin in class in 2014 when it was $68. And we talked about, do you think this is a scam or not? And I tell people now, it's $83,000. If you don't think it's a scam, I mean, even if you put $100 in there, sit there and watch it and begin to learn about it. So
He also liked to tell us about the investment opportunity that he passed up on a movie from one of his classmates. His classmates was making his first movie and asking for a small investment, and he turned him down. Who was that classmate?
Well, this is back in 82, maybe, sometime in the early 80s. And I said, black people don't make movies. What are you talking about? He said, well, no, I'm getting ready to start this movie, and I'm looking for an investor, and, would you be interested? And I told my wife, I said, man, I ain't investing no money with that rascal. I don't know what he's going to do. And his name is Spike Lee. So I tell all my students now that if you got a friend, a classmate, I don't care what you think about it. If he says he's going to invest money, put $100 in that daggone thing. You never know. It's worth it. So, wow. But he did come speak to my class for a decade since then. Every time he comes to Atlanta, he'll speak to my class. But, yeah, I made that mistake.
Mr. Clarence Williams is a brilliant, brilliant appraiser. I can't keep up with him. He's at a super high level, but I'll let Clarence go ahead and talk to you.
How are y'all doing? Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Great. I was mentioning to a lady when we first started congregating here, I'm technically not an appraiser. I always tell people that. And I'll explain that why, but let me give you my background. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. The only thing I knew about real estate when I was a kid was that Mr. Lowe, who taught my dad in high school, got a real estate license. He's one of the first people to get a real estate license in Columbus. That's all I knew about real estate. Fast forward 30 years, he managed most of my real estate in Columbus, Georgia. How did I get there? I was ignorant. I just said, ignorant guy. But I got there by learning the simple things that you learn in life. Asking questions, being curious, and talking to people. I went to Morehouse College. I was there at the same time Oscar was there. Knew Spike, didn't know him personally. And I was military. I was ROTC, regular Army officer. And my plan was to do 20 years and go to Harvard Business School afterwards and figure out what I was going to do. So my family got sick. I decided that I would give a consortium scholarship and go to grad school. And I was going to grad school purely for finance, University of Wisconsin. Cold as the devil up there. I found out that the #1 real estate program for institutional investing was at Wisconsin. And they were the only people using computers back then. That was 1984, 85. Okay. That was after we had the big computer that looked like a suitcase. And so I signed up. I found out they were doing more finance than the finance department was doing. I realized what kind of education I had when I did an interview with NZMB. They were rolled into another bank. They were in Charlotte. I went down there for an interview and stayed there for 3 days, and they introduced me to the financial analyst. The analyst was analyzing a property, and this is in '85, and they were taking a whole week to do that analysis. And when I got back to Wisconsin, I told everybody, I said, man, I understand what's going on now. This, what do you mean? I said, they had an analyst doing the same stuff that we would do. They were doing it in a week. We could do it in 2 hours. 2 hours with better accuracy. And so what I began to understand is that I walked into a great thing, which is arbitrage. And I always contributed to, and I'll leave this over there for you, this guy's named James Grashcamp. Every real estate program in the nation, including Georgia State's, was based on Wisconsin's. Jim Verner, Terry Grissom, all came out of Wisconsin like me. We call ourselves the Wisconsin Mafia. And that is a true term. And so what you do is, when you leave there, you have this skill set, okay? This skill set and I'll leave that over there too. Appraising is just one of the things. You leave there able to do anything in commercial real estate. And so what I did when I got to Atlanta, we had a list, and Wisconsin teaches you there's like 15 ways to make $1 million. So when you come back there, you can't complain about not being rich. 15 different ways. They tell you that in the first week. And one of those was using the appraisal industry, okay? Where else can you use insider trading and not go to jail? The institutions have all the work. They have all the resources. We had a guy out of Hawaii. He would invest on the periphery of where the institutions were at. So I didn't go into commercial real estate initially. I went to work for the largest commercial real estate firm in Atlanta at that time, Lane Properties. CBU's UHLs used to be our kids. And so how I got introduced to appraising is interesting. Andy, his firm, Pritchard & Wise, a guy named Hank Wise was there. He's one of the owners. He came to our office. He had to value a property up in Glenwood, office building. He came to our office because one of our clients owned the property, and I gave him all the information because I knew appraisers needed information. And we talked for a while. He came back up. He thanked me for giving him all the information. We used to value the properties internally anyway. And so he told me, he said, hey, why don't you get into appraising? I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that. I'm doing what I'm doing. So I also tell this last thing, and I'll be quiet, is that if you do get in this business, no matter what you do, try to do two things. Learn about AI, but I was telling Q this. Q used to do a little work for us. Learn the software tool Python. It's extremely important that you do that. Learn some software. Here's why. When I got to Lane Properties, our management company fees were about $500,000. Okay? We had this thing called an AS400, mid-range computer. It was going out, it was obsolete. I knew that. We were going to networks. I changed over our system from the AS400 to networks so that we can give our clients, which was like Dutch Institutional Holding Company, State Farm, all the big firms, we could give them their financials in their own type of format. Our fees went from $500,000 a year to $2.3 million overnight, okay? Now, I didn't get a piece of that, but we went to war, and I got a piece of that. And then I retired for about a year. But I came back into the business, and I came back by going into Pritchard & Wise with Hank Wise and Jim Pritchard. Andy was just starting at that time, remember? Mm-hmm. And so, long story short, I will say this. The business of real estate and appraising, no matter what you do, is people. Asking questions, comparing and contrasting. This gentleman, Graskamp, he was actually the first data scientist. The stuff that we use, I use it all the time. Very good accuracy. And so I always tell people, those are the things that you want to understand. I value any kind of property because I had the framework to do that. But I also was an investor. Half my income has never come from more than the valuation. But it's a great way to travel, to see what's going on, and to understand what's happening in the country. Last thing I'll tell you is this, and this is one of the mistakes I made. 2007, trust company wanted to invest, SunTrust wanted to invest in something. We told them not to. They were real mad and everything. Went down to Florida, and that was when Barack Obama was running for election. And I had to value a large portfolio of apartments. And I'm like, why are y'all selling these things? Makes no sense. The guy said, we ought to. I said, why? He said, AIG and Bear Stearns need the money. Those were the two main firms that went under in the 2008 collapse. I went up to Hampton, Virginia. I had to value a portfolio up there. Best thing up there is talk radio. They had Bernanke, all the big financial guys talking about the market was going to collapse, 2007. You put those things together, September 2008, the market collapsed. SunTrust didn't make that deal, even though they gave us hell for it, but they never thanked us. So these are things that you learn. These are things that you need to be aware of. I had no clue of what I was getting into. I just got lucky. I've always been a lucky and blessed guy that way. So that's what I want to leave with you. I don't want to take up any more of your time. You have any questions, I'm free. He knows how to reach me. I don't advertise. I never have a business card, but people call me all the time. In the valuation world, I'm what's known as a hired gun.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Well, thanks, Clarence, and I'm just really grateful that he agreed to come out and speak to us today. He don't do none of that stuff that you just said, but we blessed to have him here and be able to have access. And him mentioning Hank Wise, I forgot that he was at Pritchard Ball and Wise, and so was Oscar at one point when he was working on his master's in MAI at Georgia State. So Andy's got quite a bit of lineage here at the table, and Andy has since taken over the company, and he's hired several young folks that look like us, and he has an extremely strong team and has been doing some really good things in the space, and I'm very grateful and thankful for him. He's also one of our appraisal apprenticeship partners that will be helping us to be able to train and move forward. And next to in between those two is, like I said, Black Girl Magic, Miss Syra Paul. She holds all of the designations that you would ever want. I think SRA, MAI, CCIM. I know she has a master's degree. She's just absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I'm not complaining that it takes her 3 weeks to return my phone call because she's extremely busy. But I am very thankful and grateful that she is here with us today. Syra?
Okay. It seemed like you had it for me. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Syra Paul. I've been in the industry for, I'm not going to date myself, but over 20 years. Started in college. In my last year of college, I got introduced from a physics professor. He had a friend that owned a real estate company, and they needed someone who was good at math. And my degree in undergrad was mathematics. So I interviewed for that job, and that's how I heard about appraising. I knew about real estate, but never heard about appraisals and, you know, that whole arena. And so that's where I got started in the Virgin Islands. That's where I'm from. And then I moved to Georgia to study appraising and go get my graduate degree. So I attended Georgia State, where I got a master's in math. And at the time, I was also doing my appraisals license and started a business just doing appraisals. Initially started in residential, and then gradually got into commercial over the years, probably about 5 years into being in Georgia. When I initially started, though, I did not start in residential. I started in doing anything. The firm we worked at appraised all types of properties, so that was my background when I eventually moved to Georgia and actually got licensed. Right now, I currently do appraising mainly for the government. I do mainly appraisals for eminent domain, which is where the government has the right to acquire private property for public use. So that's where I specialize in right now for the last 15 plus years, just about. As he said, I do hold the MAI designation and the SRA designation, which is for residential. And I do have a CCIM, which is the commercial investment side of real estate, not just for appraisers, but anyone in real estate, property managers, developers, investors. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. What else I need to share?
Talk about your right-of-way work.
Say what?
Talk about your right-of-way work.
Oh, right away. Yeah, so like I said, with eminent domain, right away is acquisition. Like you see a lot of road projects. In fact, there's one right here down the road. They will hire an appraiser to come out and value the property, so that way they can fairly compensate the property owners for acquisition of their property. In this space, it's not much of us. I'm probably one of a couple of females that do appraising for eminent domain. Of color, even fewer, maybe one of two. So it's It's a space to get into. I do like it. I like the challenge. I like the diversity of it. It's not restricted to just work for banks or properties itself. We do a lot of land appraisals. It's very land intensive. And what else can I say? It's just a good mixture of real estate and understand the market. You get a good feel of what is to come as far as development before it happens. Like our firm I work with, we handled the project for the Georgia 400, revamping of that whole development. So we did majority of those appraisals for that project to take place. A lot of times we do these projects and it's 10 years before you actually see it come to life. So like you see some construction happening at, say, Boulder Crest Road. I worked on that project probably 6 years ago, and now construction has started within the last year. So you actually see that 3D model come to life years later, but we knew it was coming, 5, 6 years ago.
So to expand a little bit about what the right-of-way is, when they expand the highways and bridges, and they have to take multiple parcels in order to expand the highway, they get what's called a right-of-way appraisal, and so
Correct.
they usually come in bulks, and you have to value the before and after effect if they have to take the property, and so it's usually multiple parcels involved, and CIRA works on those at a very high level. So just imagine if they're coming down Peachtree and they're widening the street and they have to take so much of your front yard. They can't just take it, you have to be compensated for it, and she figures out what that determination is. So she's an extremely talented and brilliant appraiser, and I'm thankful that she came out and with us here today. And next to her is Mr. Andy Shepard. Andy does all types of special, different types of appraisals and work, and he's an incredible thought leader. He's developed a course with the paperless office that he teaches just using technology to be able to not use paper. If I write him 2 lines, he will write me back 10 pages. So I try to keep it to 2 words and keep it real simple, then I can only get 2 pages back. But whenever I have a question or need something or thought processes, he is definitely a resource and a go-to, and one of the most brilliant appraisers, as is everybody at this table. Andy?
I'd like to start out by thanking Thaddeus for being a light, for raising people up. Everybody who presented, who donated their time to be here today, thank y'all for being that voice, for inspiring, for helping people move up instead of just being about yourself, which is what most people are. Anytime you can be the light or align yourself with the light, absolutely do that. I've known Thaddeus for probably 20 years. He and I met in an appraisal institute event. I don't know how we got talking about it, but losing weight and cycling. And about 15, 20 years ago, between the both of us, probably 200 pounds lost.
Yeah.
And kept off, even though I'm still a big boy. So, I mean, he's just that kind of guy. Definitely align yourself with him. Hang on his every word kind of thing. Try to. Been appraising. St. Patrick's Day was 27 years for me. Was a bartender before. And my bar back when I was at Georgia State said, hey, there's this Easy A class that you need an elective. This is Easy A called appraisal. It's pretty cool. The guy was pretty cool. It's hands-on. Everything up to that point in college was kind of like jumping through hoops. Like you got to have a little bit of history. You got to have a little bit of chemistry. You got to have a little bit of that. None of it really made sense. I didn't want to walk around with a microscope and figure out what the chemistry was going on at that level. Real estate, when I got into that class, it was hands-on. It was out in the field. It was doing, our big project was studying apartments coming into an area that there weren't apartments in before, and it was near the North Springs MARTA station, and the neighbors were concerned about this, that, and the other. So put yourself in the shoes of a planning and zoning department staff member in that role and that job of telling the community, does an apartment complex matter? Does the lights from, there's, overhead lights that light up the whole parking lot, does that really impact value on houses that are nearby? Does the increased traffic from having that densely populated, thing there, does that create a burden on the road system, a burden on the traffic, whatever? So we got to, as kids who had absolutely no knowledge, go through all those steps, all those hoops, and it was a lot of hands-on kind of cool learning that I found. And in that class, I was sitting next to an old former bartender who was working at Pritchett Ball and Wise, who said, I'm leaving to do investment, but really cool group of guys, some gals too. You should interview there. And I picked up the phone and talked to Hank Wise back in the time, and they were in a building that had a 3-story building that had an ice cream parlor in the bottom floor. Ice cream cone was the basement. First floor was vanilla, chocolate, pistachio, whatever the colors were, right? Call him up and he says, hey, our last guy was a bartender. How bad could it be? We'll hire you. Come on over. Come meet with me. Come talk to the people. I'm the pistachio. Click, back when you used to click phones. And I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. I don't know what he's talking about. He's, pistachio, what does that mean? I get there, I see what he's talking about. And I'm like, this guy's just my kind of nuts. I'm gonna enjoy working here. Nut pun there. But he was just the fearless, most, just problem solver. Nothing that really bothered him as far as somebody had a major kind of an issue. He would figure it out. Problem solver kind of a person, right? Early on, we were working on trying to understand the factors that influence swampland value in the Florida Everglades, because the Park Service had expanded the Everglades and they needed to know how to compensate people for what they had taken, even if it was swampland. And even among swampland, there's pieces of swampland that you can actually do stuff in. There's swampland that's near canals, near roads, near cities, near whatever. We found out through the course of doing that, there are 127 potential things that explain, just by talking to people, what could affect value for swampland. And then we use statistical analysis from a lot of statisticians from Georgia State, database engineers that we incorporated in that project to figure out, okay, here are the 18 factors that anybody's ever really put statistical inference to, that you can say these are the things that impact value. And it's just kind of mind-opening as to how much variety there is. You can be a specialist in something. You can only do airports. You can only do high-rise office buildings. You can only do, whatever, landfills. Or you can be a generalist and work all over the state, all over the country. You do everything. It's not really my jam, but you can certainly do that. I try to be more of a specialist and be really well-versed in what it is that I'm working on. I like to do rock quarries. I like to do subsurface rights and the allocation of air rights. Like if you've ever been in downtown where the CNN Center is, that's MARTA below the surface, that's CSX Railroad on the surface and up to 23 feet. And it also comes with the rights to put what are called footprints, or basically touchdown points is what they call them, where you can build CNN Center. Now, if you've ever been in there, when a train goes by, you can realize that, yeah, there's a train running underneath us. But that's just the kind of thing, is separating real estate value. Like this library is worth something. This library is worth something and needs to be appraised for tax purposes. This library needs to be appraised if Georgia Power wants to run a transmission line down the back of the yard, or Colonial Pipeline wants to run a pipeline down there. How much of the value gets affected by a pipeline and the potential for the pipeline ever exploding? How often does the pipeline explode? What kind of peril is there, and what does that relate to in a valuation kind of context? So, the long and short of it is everything needs appraised, no matter if it's the White House, Disneyland, or this library. And you're the tool in the tool belt that can be the person who does that. And it's just kind of mind-blowing that that's the opportunity that's out there for anybody, really.
So Andy is, what I like, I know we're running over, but to be able to get them to give up part of their Saturday, I'm going to take full advantage of it. So he just talked about the CNN Center and appraising those property types in different ways that most people don't even think exist. And each one of them have appraised a unique property type. I'd like for them to talk about one of the most unique property types that they've appraised and enjoyed. And so Andy started, so now we're going to go with you, Syra.
Give me a minute.
Well, minute.
I got to think about that. I did want to say, though, that the appraisal industry as a whole, it's an interesting field because it allows you to keep your pulse on the market. you have the news, that's one thing, but with real estate and valuation, you're constantly looking, doing market research. So you have a good feel of what's going on in the market, how values are projecting, and it gives you insight of how people are reacting to what's happening economically. So what you see in the news today, we're already seeing that reflected in values or how people react to sales and, what they're willing to pay. So I like the fact with appraising you pretty much have a good feel of what was happening in the economy as a whole. Whether you appraise or not, just having that knowledge base, it's insightful just for like living itself. Now to unique property, I'll let you have it.
Actually,
And I'll
I
think
can
about
tie
it.
into exactly what she was saying. And it's unique. If you go to Perimeter Mall, you get off that exit at Ashford Dunwoody, look to your left, there's a building there. It's called the Gold Kiss Building. And it's very unique. It was a DOT taking. Now, Sarah works for GDOT, those folks. I work for the other side, the owners. And so GDOT see me, they know what's coming. Well, anyway, this building was unique because the taking was going to basically turn the building's value to about 25%. And it was a year-long battle. I think the attorney, Steve Levy, Ken Levy, still doing DOT? He's the attorney.
No.
Anyway.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Ken Levy, yeah. Oh, Lord have mercy. We had a good time. But anyway, what happened, it was one of the largest settlements for GDOT. It's like they started out with 15 million. We valued it much more higher than that. They wound up paying the owners $80 million. It changed the way GDOT did stuff. But it goes back to what Sarah was saying and what I was saying about how you can use real estate with insider information. That Boulder Crest area over there, I did that for Flying J. I forgot the name of it. It's a large transportation company. We did that about 5 years ago. So I'm thinking in my mind, gee, this is going to change the dynamics of this area. I don't have to deal with a 5-mile radius of the area. I can go further from that, and I can start understanding where properties that may not have the value now will be increased over time. You see things before they happen. This was the thing I was alluding to in terms of the guy that decided to invest on the periphery of investors. So if you are an investor type person, those are things that you can look at. Go get the DOT records, see where the sewer lines coming in, see where roads are being expanded. That gives you an idea. So that would probably be the most unique one that I've done because it kind of changed a lot of things in terms of how condemnation compensation is done from the other side of the table, which is the landowner, which is very unique. The only other one was a condemnation case in South Georgia for a church. And that was one where they were saying the property was worth $300,000, but it was a unique situation, and they wound up getting $1.5 million out of that deal. So those are the only ones that I can think of right now, but you do all kinds of different things. You see a lot of different properties, but I always tell you, get in the valuation business. And the best way I heard it say, you can make a lot of money in the appraisal world, but if you can apply what you learn, you can become extremely wealthy.
Oh, that's why I'm up here with the table with all these wealthy people. Hopefully someone will fall off the plate and hit me upside the head. To my right, I want to ask Oscar to talk about the most unique property that he's worked on. And I know that he's done Indian reservation work. He's done colleges, college campuses, hospitals. So just pick out one, Oscar.
I was thinking which one. Okay, let's do universities. I've appraised a couple of HBCUs. Probably one that's the most interesting is St. Augustine University in Raleigh, North Carolina. We appraised their campus and their off-site property that they own. And the only thing why it's so unique, and I've also done Payne College and, of course, Morehouse College. But one of the interesting things about St. Aug, and really all these HBCUs, they have a lot of property that's off campus over the years. And the problem that they have is they don't know how to convert that real estate into income. You know, right? We don't have to sell it. We could land lease it. We can do all kinds of stuff with it. But you could generate a lot of revenue from all that land that they have. Back when I did St. Aug, I think their off-campus stuff was came up somewhere around $15 million or so. And it's just sitting out there, vacant land, boarded up houses. I'm saying, why don't we take that and don't have to sell it, but if we convert it into income, you know, you could generate a couple of $1 million a year from that real estate. Not only that, but it changes the neighborhood. Morehouse is in the process of doing that right now. And the key with doing those HBCUs, the campuses are unique, but it's really the off-campus real estate. You know, a lot of HBCUs you see, matter of fact, I might be doing some work for Jackson State, but you see the neighborhoods really are not very vibrant. One of the reasons they're not vibrant is because you've got this big economic engine sitting there, and they're not leading the way. They own enough property in the area that they could change that area, but they don't have the in-house talent to kind of understand what that is, and then it's sometimes difficult to get them to see that. But you know, we tried at St. Aug, it didn't work out. You know, they lost their accreditation, and now they're struggling. But it's sometimes sad to see. But I think that's one of the things that I would say.
Yeah, that's a unique opportunity that we have actually been looking at, and it may even be necessary in order to further the HBCU's cause, especially with the recent attack with the Department of Education and the amount of funding. There's going to be need and opportunity to be able to turn those things, and a lot of the opportunity, especially when you're impacting the neighborhood, is to be able to attack it with critical mass. And because they have so much real estate in an impactful area, they have the ability to turn and impact it with critical mass. So with that being said, I am not going to hold this esteemed panel any longer. I'd like to thank you all for showing up and supporting our Outside the Barn series. We will be here next week working or talking about urban agriculture, how to get a farm number, aquaponics, hydroponics, and aeroponics. And so our guests here will be, I think we have guests coming from the Andrew Young Forever Young Foundation and a series of other guests. We'll also be having some, I believe Ms. Keisha Cobb from Farm Fortitude will be here. So I'm really excited about this series. And we've added a fifth element to the series called policy, and we'll be scheduling that soon. Policy is really important and very impactful. One of the policies that we have been championing and working on is the reconsideration of value policy. We did a session last week. Reconsideration of value is the opportunity to dispute when you feel like your property has been undervalued. It was recently rescinded from HUD as part of the PAVE initiative rollback on March 19th. And it is very critical. It was just recently implemented last year. So what it does is it's a process that allows the consumer to be heard, but it also allows the appraiser to be given the opportunity to explain his work objectively without being accused of racism or bias or misgiving in the appraisal process. It's the number one tool, in my opinion, to combat racial discrimination and bias in appraising. If you look at the recent paper done by the FHFA, it's no longer on the website, but it was dated in November 2024. It stated that only 10% of all real estate appraisals utilized market conditions adjustments. So if only 10% was utilizing market condition adjustments, that means 90% was not utilizing market conditions adjustments. And the paper further went on to say that would go a long way to mitigating disparities in property valuation. And I happen to agree. So that's one of the things that policy can influence and have a great impact on the valuation process. So we will be championing that. We will like for you all to reach out to your county, city, state, and federal legislators in order to do that. But you also have the power to do it as well by implementing with your lending institution. If your institution does not offer reconsideration of value, you want to consider an institution that does. So that is the number one tool that we have in order to protect and champion our wealth. It's something that the VA has used for years through the Tidewater process. And the process that was adopted through HUD and PAVE, in my opinion, didn't go far enough. So this is an opportunity to not only reinstate it, but improve it so that it is effective and a great tool to protect wealth. So with that being said, thank you all again for coming out. I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Thank you.
See if they have any questions.
Oh, any questions? Yes, sir.
So what would be some sources for the first steps to becoming an appraiser that you would suggest?
Talk to one of these experts up here.
What was the question?
How to become an appraiser.
How to become an appraiser.
So, I'll take it. Couple of ways to do it. One is if you are interested in being an appraiser, is go find one and ask if you can kind of like follow them, shadow them, kind of just hang out with them, go to some of the events like the Institute has or some of these other organizations to kind of get into it. And then you go ahead and you can take the class. Now state licenses appraisers. Yeah, they've got the MLS has an exam, and I mean there's a bunch of classes with exams you can take and kind of get into the field. It takes a while in terms of getting that connection and meeting with someone. Now, the technology is the technology is such that you don't need people as much as you used to. So you got to find somebody who's willing to take you under their wing and work with you. If you look at the people up here, three of us basically came out of Pritchard Ball and White shop. And James Pritchard, who kind of helped me at the time, he just used to have, I just go over there and kind of hang out and learn about it. And that's how I kind of got into it. And, Mr. Kennedy was the same way. He was in my class, and, he asked, kind of connected, and kind of hung out with me, and decided that was something he wants to do. Students do that now. Like you can come with me, and I'm going to inspect this piece of property. If you want to come on, come on. And when I'm doing that, because I got a lot of people who come to me, if you show up, you're halfway there. A lot of people say, yeah, I want to do it, but they don't come.
We also have the first appraisal apprenticeship program in the country that will be starting by the end of the summer. So come to our website, 10kma.org, and then our new website, 10kblackappraisers.com, should be up and running next week, and we'll have resources and direction. And one of the things is that there's many different classes that are being offered. One of the things is that the appraisal process needs to be modernized. Right now, they're in the process of changing the form. So that's on the residential side, but that's just basically a start. These guys up here, they utilize critical thinking skills. That's the most important thing. And with the data science and the evidence-based, data-driven analysis, one of the things that Clarence mentioned is he doesn't consider himself an appraiser. And the evolution of appraising is not going to be appraising. It's going to be data analyst, because you need to be able to analyze the data in order to be able to make informed decisions. So this new form, the old form was dated 2005. So that just goes to show you how outdated the appraisal process is. And with that, just think about how many phones Apple's on its 16th phone. They've had 16 phones since the appraisal industry has had a new form. And a new form will be coming out in 2026. It's starting to do some testing in July of this year. So with that being said, a lot of appraisers won't even really know how to use the new form. Even more important for the reconsideration of value, because that process is so fair, but you need a subject matter expert in order to articulate the argument. So that's one of the things that our organization was founded on, to make sure that you get a fair shot in the appraisal industry and what's happening with the report. Because we tend to be underrepresented in valuation, and also underrepresented when it comes to actually getting into the industry. So there's so many opportunities. We'll be here. You can reach out to us as a resource, as probably most of you all have been here because of the outreach that we've been doing in the space. And I'm really excited to be able to push that narrative and help move it forward. And everybody doesn't necessarily have to come and take our courses. We've helped people that our courses haven't even been fully developed yet. So we're in the process of doing that now to finish, to be able to offer. But it's about the experience that you get and who are you able to work under and be able to benefit. And one thing that I will say, over the last week or two, several people have reached out and they've been somewhat experienced. And so they was like, can you help me find an appraiser? And I asked them to submit their resume. And, well, why do you want my resume? Well, I don't know nothing about you. Nobody's just going to recommend you. So you got to be able to tell the story, your work history, your work habit, your work ethic. Show that you have some critical thinking skills. And again, you're asking somebody to take a chance and invest in a significant amount of time in you. What do you bring to the table? Nobody really wants to waste their time. But as you can see, these people up here, if they can help you, but they can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself.
Yeah, I would just say, make sure that that's something that you're really interested in. Have a fine-tooth focus on what it is you really want to work on. If somebody came to me and said they wanted to be a residential appraiser, I would say I'd take a really hard look at AI, at how big data is going to just crush that segment of our industry. Do you really want to go down that? I don't know. I wouldn't really point somebody to that. Second point is, once you do figure it out, be willing to either provide some kind of a work sample or some kind of thoughts material or something more than a resume. Resume is great, it's a foot in the door, but show me that you've used ChatGPT to analyze something. Show me you've seen some property that's been on the market for 5 years and why hasn't it sold. And you could turn yourself into a consultant for that property owner and say, what should it really sell for? Are you just overly optimistic about the price? Is there something weird about the property that's causing it to sit on the market for 5 years other than the price is wrong? If you can kind of formulate some, thought into what it is you're wanting to do and show that to an employer, because first several years are an extreme headache for you and it's an extreme net loss for an employer. I mean, it just is. I'm paying, $8-10 grand for somebody to go to classes to evolve themselves. I'm paying office rent, computers, plus their salary. So you've got to have, a humongous investment in yourself to making it happen too. It does pay off in the end for both the employer and the employees. That's why we suck it up for the first couple of years while we're losing money. But it just is what it is. And we're one of the few firms in Atlanta who bites off that apple and says we're willing to take on the max number of trainees every year, which is 3. My whole queue is filled up with people in that boat. I've tried to bring on people, trying to train them. And a lot of times they figure out this ain't for me. They figure out, let me transition what I'm learning here into something else like underwriting or bank review or whatever. But at least I can expose them to what the reality of it is, how to do it the right way, how not to cut corners, how to not see through rosy colored lenses, so show somebody that's defensible that allows you to sleep at night.
And one thing I'd like to add is that you can't be afraid to make a mistake. A lot of times people think they're going to come in and be it. You're not going to come in this and be perfect. And make a mistake, and you can't be overly sensitive to the criticism because it's only going to make you better. And I believe that as long as you're not continuously making the same mistake, and nobody is going to be mad. You're supposed to make mistakes. That's the only way you're going to get stronger and get better. But I see people all the time that don't want to show their work, and I can't help you because I don't know what you know. I know what I know, and you regurgitating everything I tell you is really not helping you to grow.
Yeah, a lot of it's the academy of fake it till you make it. So use those pushbacks to further yourself to do it right the second time, the third time. Don't make the same mistakes over and over again, like I said. Certainly don't send me a report when I got the old report you just did that was bad on this, X, Y, and Z case, and then send me the next report with the same problems. That ain't gonna help.
If you're interested, get with Thaddeus and he'll connect you with me. We'll make you a guinea pig and get you some real world work experience. And even Q, we were talking a little bit earlier, get back with me so you can take that technology stuff to the next level in terms of valuation. So he knows how to get in touch with me. We'll get you some real world experience if you're interested. And it's commercial. And I would suggest you do commercial. I'm glad Andy said that. And we'll see how that works out. And all we ask people to do is, if we teach you something, teach 5 other people something. Okay? So you'll be the guinea pig.
And we had that conversation earlier today.
Now everybody stand
What you
up. Okay. No, that's okay, because trust me, we can make that work for
That's what it's really
you.
all about. And to what he said, everybody thought I was crazy when I started talking about 10,000 black appraisals. And so for me, I may not see 10,000. I think I will. But it's you all's responsibility to make sure this thing gets to 10,000. So it's really not about me. That's part of the problem with the industry. It's a me, self-serving sort of deal. And it sort of cut itself off by operating from the principle of scarcity. If I help you, then you're going to come back and take my business. My God is abundant, and the more I give, it multiplies. And you got to give it away in order to keep it. So I believe, and as all these people up here believe, because none of us are insular. If you see, they're all interconnected, and they all have the highest designation possible. Maybe if I rub elbows, it'll trickle down to me. But that hasn't been my case. But my inspiration is you all, and you're the reason that we're here, and you're the reason that they're here as well. So they want to help. They just want to have something to help.
Thank you. Is there any resource or connection that can convert my hours at the county in appraising to get certified general license?
They're working on different things now. They just had an AQB meeting yesterday that I missed online. So they're looking at alternative experiences to move towards that. But I think it's on a kind of a individual basis right now. But I think you can submit your log to try to see if you can get qualification. And that's something we could talk about and work on. But they are actively working on it. Again, the profession needs to be modernized and updated. And it's going through a great transition right now. So with technology and opportunities and experiences from other fields, those experiences are very relevant, and there's no particular one way to skin a cat or actually get there.
I have a question regarding hospital appraisals as well as environmental sustainability. I have 17 years in healthcare. Also, I've taken graduate courses in systems engineering and civil engineering courses just because I was interested. And I taught environmental health at a college for 4.5 years. And I'm really interested in leveraging those skills I have in the academy as well as the practical skills within the healthcare profession, and utilizing that opportunity for appraisal and environmental sustainability, particularly in underserved or under-resourced neighborhoods.
Any one of you experts up there?
The hospitals? No.
I would tell you to do this. Find someone who's doing what you want to do, or someone that values medical facilities, things of that nature, and talk with them and ask them those questions. Again, that's just the best way, because it's kind of funny. Your brain won't find you a solution if you don't start asking questions, okay? That's how it works. So I think that's what you should do. Do that research. Sarah didn't tell you a story, but she told this to me. When she first started, she couldn't find any stuff, so she started valuing properties herself, commercials. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
And that's how, and that works. I wanted to do golf courses. I did one myself. I went and talked to the owners. So there may be not just the field in terms of valuation, it may be some things like you're saying on the environmental industry side, which is getting super, super important. People don't understand it. There are a lot of different niches out there. So there is someone out there doing what you want to do. And it's just a matter of going into the woods and finding that person and talking with them.
And establishing a base with the basis of the coursework. Once you get the base of the coursework down, then you can kind of to figure out and pivot, knowing that's where you want to end up. And so again, these are things that we can kind of try to help you to sort of figure it out. I know Oscar's done several hospitals and long-term care facilities, and with the aging population, that is definitely a niche market and opportunities above with assisted living and that sort of deal. So,
And I'll piggyback off of that. There's also some segmentation in firms. A lot of where appraisal jobs or assignments come in from are based on where the need is, right? If it's for a bank for a loan, if it's for construction, if it's for eminent domain, something like that. Like there's different firms who are in different pipelines, if you will. So you may work, like we don't do bank work at all, so we're not going to be that kind of a person who's probably ever going to do a hospital or something like, that's more on the lending side, and the lending side of that being the cause for the appraisal. We're going to be oh no, what happened when this got contaminated? Oh no, what happens when they, built this property 20 feet over the property line? And now they've got this property on somebody's neighboring property, and now they can't use it, and they're having to pay. So all that goes along with that. So different folks do different things, and the source of the appraisal assignment is dictated by a lot of times by that company and what they do. Like a CBR, Richard Ellis may do more lending than anything else, or Randall Hammond and the company may do more DOT work than anything else they do. So you kind of have to figure out what it is you're going to go with and pick the right firm.
Anybody got any more questions? Well, this would be a good time, Rick, for us to end. Thank you all for this exciting segment. Thank you for everybody that's been on the panel. Thank you for this esteemed panel that we have here. You all have a great weekend, and hopefully you can make it back next week.